Well, good afternoon, and thank you for coming. It's truly a pleasure to be here. As the UK government's international education champion, I've heard so much over the years about the high-profile and influential Bett series of events in the UK, in Southeast Asia, and in Brazil. And I'm really heartened and pleased that Bett, for the first time, has included a dedicated zone to HE for this, your first in-person show since 2020. Now, since commencing my duties as International Education Champion in 2020, I've undertaken over 100 international engagements, mainly online or hybrid, interspaced with some in-person trips. Most recently, a really impactful trip to India with a selection of chartered institutions last week. But this is only the second time in those 2 years that I've had the chance to address an actual in-person audience face-to-face in the UK. And I'd like to take this opportunity to offer a few observations from an international perspective, particularly on the transformation to digital delivery and its impact. This transformation presents both opportunities and challenges which require thorough consideration and policy development. Now, within the UK government's international education strategy, we prioritise higher education. And it's really important that we ensure that our world-class universities continue to attract international students. And within the overseas countries that I've engaged with, HE is typically a prioritised area to pilot digital options and assess the impact of online teaching. A strong example of that is Vietnam's Circular 38 policy, which was actually mooted as a teaching option pre-COVID. In this, they've certainly been on the front foot, and they're keen to understand what preparations need to be in place. But others have not been as forward-thinking in that field, and many are now looking to the Department of International Trade and key UK stakeholders, including UUKI, British Council and FutureLearn, for advice on how to adopt workable frameworks. What's certainly been apparent from my engagements with regard to online or hybrid HE, and as highlighted in my session at the Dubai Expo, is that the pandemic and lockdown acted as an accelerant to what was already happening, some estimate by about 5 years. It's also viewed as an opportunity to expand international partnerships and in developing platforms to reach communities that previously had little access. But the issues to be surmounted are myriad, varying at a national and local level. Some of my countries of focus see digital transformation as having the potential actually to increase exclusion and worsen the digital divide. And what is the enthusiasm for this from students, parents and lecturers? And whilst we have helpful ministries of education, and we've worked with them and universities to consider existing innovative models that they can adopt, not all institutions have sufficient resources to invest in a really digital estate. From a student's perspective, there's the potential loss of the sense of belonging. So there's a definite need to be imaginative in enhancing the student experience and interacting, ensuring general well-being. In that, I've been really impressed by the way that many UK academics have been really creative in terms of inclusive content when access to resources and practical artifacts have been limited. An overseas alumna who'd studied in the UK during the early days of the pandemic joined my in-person panel in Dubai, and encouragingly, she was really positive about her experience. She was pleased to see heightened inclusion with more students with disabilities and those coming from the lower quartile of deprived areas. And there's the opportunity to strengthen the connection between industry and learning, in that students may be in a better position to curate the modules they want rather than the educator. And in some institutions, they're now exploring the offer of studying through short blocks. However, many government bodies and university leaders overseas also need to consider digital poverty. One solution offered at a recent knowledge sharing event was through partnerships with industry in setting up learning hubs for shared materials and infrastructures. There's also a need for CPD for overseas lecturers and what, of course, of actual online content. Now, some UK universities I've spoken to have been forced to change their overseas strategies for student recruitment and adopt more sustainable models of teaching abroad. I don't need to tell you that there will, of course, always be huge markets for the traditional residential on-campus experience. There's been a massive expansion of 18-year-olds around the world, plus those in the 30s and 40s bracket who want to retrain. Indeed, international enrolments to the UK increased by 9% in 2021, which means that we've met our ambition under the international education strategy of at least 600,000 international students for the first time. But there's room for different models via multi-channel universities. And there are growing numbers of students, particularly from overseas, who want the mixed mode of delivery. Whilst talking about online student engagement, we should not forget about online international learning, commonly known as COIL. COIL is a fantastic tool used by many universities in the UK and worldwide to internationalise their curriculum and provide the first step for their students, leading to further international activities, such as, for example, the new UK Turing Mobility Programme. The Turing Scheme is a UK government programme providing funding for international study opportunities in education and training across the world. It supports Global Britain by providing an opportunity for UK organisations from the higher education, further education and schools sectors to offer their students life-changing experiences to study or work abroad. Outside of the online sphere, I'm pleased to see a sustained and growing appetite for TNE partnerships, and it's an area in which I and my colleagues in DIT and the Department for Education are keen to help smooth the path to facilitate the right conditions overseas and make it an attractive option. Examples of our work in that area include encouraging overseas ministries to create robust data banks on the capacity of local universities so that UK universities have full knowledge and confidence in the capability of overseas partnering institutions. Also, we need to suggest to overseas ministries that they consider those outstanding international universities in the UK who are not in the global top 100. Instead, we think they should focus on the rankings of subjects and faculties. Now, this is an ongoing process, and we've leveraged the benefits through various means, including in recent government-to-government memoranda of understanding and ministerial bilateral working groups. We're also continuing to work with colleagues in the Department for Education on scoping the mutual recognition of qualifications in countries where we consider there to be a tangible opportunity and benefit to institutions in both countries. And we've the excellent British Council-led Going Global schemes in selecting and funding bilateral ventures in key disciplines. Digital options will, of course, also have a role in these partnerships. Now, these are just some of my observations since assuming the role of International Education Champion in 2020. Regarding ahead, we've already heard fascinating insights on professional development, cybersecurity, and expectations of modern learners. And over the rest of the programme, you'll have the opportunity to hear from a really impressive lineup of speakers from both the UK and overseas, sharing insights, including on research partnerships and social mobility in the digital age. There'll also be networking in the collaboration space and tech displays in the sandbox area. I do hope that some of the overseas delegations to Bett are also with us at AHEAD, and I urge you all to visit the wider show, including our incredibly active UK stand in the North Hall, which is stand NJ31, where there's some innovative UK providers with us whose online offer is aimed specifically at higher education. So welcome to the event. Thank you for listening. I hope you've found it of interest. Thank you.